People who have appeared on dating shows, Naked Attraction, First Dates, what's it like behind the cameras?
Had a non-actor friend on MTV's Next in the early as one of the 3 suitors on the bus. I watched the episode and the banter didn't sound like him at all. I asked and he said every single word out of my mouth was scripted.
A friend was on the Irish First Dates. She said everything took ages. They had to get there early and wait for hours to be called. They were told to take a toilet break during the date so they could be filmed phoning someone. This took a long time as they had to change microphones. Afterwards they had to wait around to be filmed talking about the date. They were given €20 towards the meal and had to pay the rest themselves. The taxi afterwards is just for filming purposes and drops them off round the corner. They have to make their own way home.
I did a car dating show when I was an actor in LA. It was fun and we did a lot of fun trivia games and such. After 2 hours they took me aside and asked if I was in love with the girl. I honestly said that I wasn't, but I'd be happy to be friends. For a long time I couldn't figure out why they wouldn't use my episode because I thought it was really funny. Turns out they only use the episodes where people actually fall in love with each other in 2 hours. That's a little fast for me. Edit. Now I remember, it's called Third Wheel. It was a blind date show. Seriously, it was fun, just too soon for love.
I don't speak Spanish fluently, but one time I appeared on Doce Corazones, 12 Hearts, which is a Spanish-language romance show where a woman has to choose from 12 men to date. Living in Southern California, where it's filmed, and a Spanish-speaking friend of mine dragged me to the set when they had a last-minute cancellation and needed someone to stand in lol. Anyway, the gimmick of the show is that each of the 12 guys has a different zodiac sign, and I guess that's part of the host, matchmaker's recommendation to the woman. I didn't really understand what was going on, but they didn't care what my actual birthday was. They just told me to pretend to be a Sagittarius for the show. I made it to the second round. The woman didn't kick me off immediately, much to my surprise lol. When she asked me to describe myself, I just kind of said, you know, I'm a nice guy who likes having fun, or something ridiculous in my high school level Spanish. It was a silly but memorable experience. Wish I could find it on YouTube. It would have been 2005 or 2006. Edit. Thanks to you, Bothenspied, for pointing out this amazing Japanese game show. SNL skit from that is exactly how I felt.
I was an actor in the 90s/00s. Our agency supplied actors to dating shows. We had 3 people pretending to be in a love triangle, being sad and emotional and angry and whatever, and we watched a recording of it in our classes, including the 3 in question, laughing at the sheer, well, falsehood of it all. It was basically improv. I actually didn't know until then that the contestants were faked. I guess real people do apply, so perhaps they use a mixture of real applicants and stooges to pad out other episodes.
A girl I went to high school with was on Married at First Sight, and she said it was mostly scripted and edited to make her look super bad because people love the drama. Except, I couldn't tell it was edited. That's just how she was. Anyway, she's engaged again. So it obviously didn't make her look too bad.
Not me, but a mate went on dinner date. Had the date and the producers said they'd call him in the next few days after the winner had been chosen by the girl and they were ready to film the conclusion. They called him on a Friday night while we were in the pub, but they wouldn't tell him if he'd won and was going out or whether they would just be filming the rejection. He wanted to stay at the pub, but I convinced him to go back. Turns out he lost, and after 10 minutes of filming spent the evening at home on his own. He was pretty annoyed.
Not me, but my best friend was on First Dates, Dutch one. There was a lot of waiting. I think he was there for 4 hours in total. Had to eat a 3-course meal at 12 in the afternoon. What I thought was also funny was that the shot of them walking towards the restaurant is shot way before the actual date. So they are not walking towards their date, they just approach the restaurant and then go back to the waiting room.
It's a tad bit boring. I've to stare through the lens for long periods and constantly fiddle with the settings. Nobody ever asks how the camera dude feels.
My ex was on Naked Attraction. Was super weird seeing him. Didn't recognize who it was until I saw his face. Watched it again just to see if I recognized him before the faces were revealed. Still didn't recognize him. A mutual friend told me he told all his friends that he was on it. so I guess they have all seen him naked now.
Also answer the age-old question of, how can you be too shy to talk to someone in a pub, but so easily get your bits out on national TV?
Good buddy of mine was on a bachelorette-style show. He was drunk most of time. They used the lavalier mics to have Pa restock whiskey and replace kegs more than they used it to record actual audio for the show. It was interesting to see parts of his story, being told as sweet and kind man, but as a good friend I could just see the drunk on his face on a lot of his dates, interactions. He ended up winning. They also NDA'd him to hell and he refused to talk about the show in any capacity until a year or so after it aired.
So I've had the liberty of dating a girl, now an ex, who was on a dating show, and here's what I can relay from what I remember. There are planted actors, actresses who act outrageously for added production drama in practically every show like this. A large portion of fights, drama that happen are the cause of spread rumors from production to once again spice things up. Lots of it is artificial. Even when the chemistry seems to go well between two people on these shows, they rarely end up together once it's over. Again, the biggest shock from her was how immensely planted most of these shows are.
I worked on a season of a relatively popular dating show once, and there were some interesting moments that I thought were smart of the producers to do in order to make good television, but also I remember walking away from that show thinking to myself, none of this is technically wrong, but it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. A few things I remember. Bachelorettes and bachelors could absolutely not meet each other under any circumstances before the cameras were rolling and ready. Security on this was practically tighter than the president. It was so essential for the producers to capture the real authentic first reaction that the bachelor had to seeing each bachelorette for the very first time. After that initial reaction, we'd shoot it again a few times to get different angles, but those reactions you see are real. Every bachelorette was cast months in advance because even though the show is about a bachelor, the characters who provided drama and story were the bachelorettes. They were picked out of literally thousands of auditions and chosen because they were all vibrant TV personalities with very strong beliefs that created possible conflicts to drive plot. The bachelor themselves was selected about 2 weeks before shooting because he has enough status to be believably desired. The one I remember most is we cast a bachelorette who was a single mom and kept it a secret for the entire show until that big reveal moment for the bachelor himself, and used that as a big reveal for an episode. Personally, she was my favorite, most down-to-earth bachelorette, but the bachelor just didn't jive with it. Frown. Producers never stopped trying to beat their way into getting free stuff for the show, locations, product placements, free admittance to things for filming. They genuinely believe that just because we show a restaurant on TV that people will flood it later because they saw it on, insert show title /. This goes for all reality TV really. Crews bet on everything. If it's a competition in any way, crews have money flying all around it. Only producers keep out of the betting rings. This goes for basically every reality show. Surprisingly little is fabricated outright compared to what people think about reality TV in general, at least for bigger shows with large audiences. Most of what you see is real choices, decisions, and outcomes. The planning and manipulation people think happens comes all in pre-production based on extensive interviews with contestants on things. As an extreme example, someone's afraid of heights? Congrats, your date is now bungee jumping at a glass floor restaurant dinner. It's always about eliciting strong reactions from vibrant people, which kind of leads to the last big pillar I learned across several shows. The contestants don't matter. Nobody on the show actually ends up caring about the contestants because they are just the driver of story. Everything is done for the audience watching at home.
I was at First Dates in the Netherlands as a date for in background. You arrive at a large empty room with the rest of the background date people, and then you have to sign some stuff. I couldn't wear color or a print, that was too much of a distraction, and the attention should be on the real participants. We saw the participants in the same empty room, but we couldn't talk to them. Then we went to the restaurant, which was a small TV studio. It looks big on TV, but was really small. There was no music at all, because they had to edit the footage later. They told us to speak loudly. The food was good and the waiters were really nice. Sorry for any mistakes, English is not my first language.
I wasn't on a dating show, but I saw one being filmed. A few years ago, my wife set up a cool birthday party at an axe-throwing place in Atlanta. We had our reservation set up and showed up on time, but we weren't allowed inside because they were filming a show, Ready to Love or A Scene or something like that. Anyways, it was a young couple, probably in their late 20s, and it was very clear that they were not on a real date. While we were waiting outside, They had to film them descending the steps several times because the couple wasn't showing enough affection. They also filmed them exiting the venue and walking away about 3 to 4 times. After they filmed them leaving, we were allowed to go inside. However, the production team still wasn't happy with the results, so the couple came back in to film a few more scenes. You could absolutely tell that these actors weren't into each other at all, as they had to film the girl throwing an axe about 10 times before she got a good shot, and when she finally got one, the dude wasn't even paying attention, so we had to wait for her to try another 5 to 6 times before she hit one and he ran up and gave her a kiss. It was super awkward to watch, and I cannot for the life of me believe anyone would think this was a real date. Pretty surreal experience, but I can guarantee that whichever show this was 100% scripted.
So, I wasn't on a show, but I really wanted to tell this story. I was one of the final, I want to say 20? In selection for the first season Beauty and the Geek Australia, but ultimately didn't make the final cast. My whole thing was that I was, still am, a rapper, but also a giant nerd. When we got into the final one-on-ones with the producers, they asked if I had any special skills, and so I told them that yeah, I rap. I actually had a song that had a little radio play at the time called Sci-Fi Geek, so they asked me to perform it, which I did a cappella. Anyway, I didn't make the show because I don't think I was book smart enough. Like, most of the cast had multiple doctorates, which I was bummed about, but I got over. Anyway, when it aired, I received multiple text messages saying I urgently had to watch it. The very first week on the first Beep episode, the challenge for the geeks was to write and perform a rap song for the beauties. They essentially distilled my whole pitch down to use for one episode. It felt like I'd slightly been wronged by that one. Edit, thanks for all the upvotes. It did have a good ending though, as I've been able to transition my skill set to songwriting and had a blast penning lyrics for people. I also moved into being an actor as well, and managed to land a few recurring roles in decent-sized productions.
Not me, but a family member was on dating show, did quite well, although didn't end up with guy. She had said that a lot of the personalities depicted for certain women were very much just cherry-picking specific scenes to portray them differently than they were in the house. She had also said they were confined to the house with very little opportunities to leave, essentially creating a stressful environment where tensions are likely to boil over. They had the opportunity to go back on the show in a different capacity and turn down the offer, so I do not think they would recommend it.
Teamsters eating craft services watching two 21-year-old wannabe actors try to flirt. The ultimate in romance. Did you get the cream cheese for these bagels?
I can actually answer this one. I was on first dates last September. Because we were still in pandemic mode, the show was filmed in Manchester. They sent a cab round to pick me up and had a hotel set up for us. They also set up a testing station in the hotel, which was convenient. They told me the date was at 7, but I actually ended up in a waiting room till about 10 for the actual date to start. Had to do the walk up to the restaurant twice and was waiting outside with no jacket, which was annoying. They'd also told me that I couldn't wear a white shirt, something to do with the cameras and lighting, so had to go with a backup outfit. The producers definitely tried to stitch me up though. When I went to the bar, the girl who I was talking to wasn't actually my date, it was her sister who was in the bathroom. But I had no idea initially, so I was chatting up the wrong girl, yikes. During the date I didn't notice the cameras until we were leaving and saw some of them on a small discreet tripod. After the date, we had to hang around for another hour and a half for a photo shoot and the post-date interviews, then they did the filming for the taxi and dropped us off at one of our hotels. All worth it in the end, as my date ended up my girlfriend Grin.
I'd wager many signed NDAs, so it may be sketchy to post details.
Can we hear from someone who was on Love Island?
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.